First of all, thanks very much for joining us today. And as you all are probably aware already, today's webinar is going to be about what's new in Civil 3D 2025. First of all, we'll just give a little bit about the agenda for today. So we'll just go through ourselves, myself and Enrique. We'll speak a little bit about symmetry, and then we'll go from there into what's new in Civil 3D, a couple of slides about that, and then Enrique is going to give a live demo on Civil 3D and those new features. So we'll get straight into it, and we'll just introduce a little bit about ourselves. So my name is Ger O'Sullivan. I'm an AEC technical specialist within Symmetry. I'm working here for over 7 years now, and I specialize in all cloud-related products. So I provide training, support, and guidance and implementation through BIM 360, ACC, and mainly Revit. So if you want to speak a little about yourself, Enrique.
So Enrique Barriuso, consultant at Symmetry. I'm a civil engineer. I mostly deliver training in Civil 3D, info drainage, related applications in the infrastructure and civil sector. In Symmetry, consultancy services, a bit of support as well. And I worked in the industry before I joined Symmetry. So I've been like 4 years in the industry and 9 in Symmetry. That's a bit about my background.
Very good. So yeah, we're just going to have a couple of slides just about Symmetry. I know you're all here to see, again, the good stuff that's coming out in Civil 3D 2025, so we won't waste too much time. Again, we'll just give an overview of who we are at Symmetry. So at Symmetry, we've continuously expanded to provide even better leading-edge solutions and services to more markets. We have now over 1,000 employees in 7 different countries through 33 different offices, and we have over 400,000 users daily. And since being founded in 1989, we have grown through 23 different acquisitions and organic growth. So our purpose and our challenge at Symmetry is to challenge people to work smarter for an even better future. And our mission with that is to enable businesses to gain a competitive advantage by using leading edge technologies and solutions to improve performance. So what do we do here at Symmetry? Symmetry are a consultancy-led technology business, and we supply AEC solutions and support to projects from cradle to grave, working with clients, design teams, contractors, and manufacturers. Our offerings include software training, consultancy, technical support, IT support, and solutions, and document management and project delivery, often working on live projects in the role of information manager, or supporting our customers through ISO 19650. So from that then, just to speak a bit about this and the softwares that we use. And in order to do this, we partner with a large number of technology providers in the construction space to provide the best solutions for our clients. Where technology does not exist or is not even efficient enough for our customers, we also develop our own applications to support the offering. And these applications are what you can see here on the screen. So Symmetry technology solutions are developed with the mission to help companies to be more productive on a daily operations and remove waste from their business processes. And again, as you can see from the screen, our 3 main products we have developed are Naviate, Sovilia, and CQ. So Naviate makes more sustainable material selections for building and infrastructure. Sovilia creates and manages product design and product information and integrates it with various value chains over the product lifecycle. And CQ then optimizes licenses and reduces costs to related license deployment process. And finally, the last slide on Symmetry itself. So Symmetry is Autodesk's largest solutions partner globally. And we are proud to be an Autodesk Platinum Partner, Autodesk Learning Partner, Autodesk, an authorized training center, as well as a global service provider. And we have also won the Autodesk Foundation Award as the most impactful sustainability win through our co-innovation lab, where we are driving digital transformation in the wider organization and project delivery. So now what we'll focus on is, after that brief summary of Symmetry, we're going to get into it and look at what's new in Civil 3D 2025. So I'll pass you back over to Enrique for this.
Okay, so For me, it's going to be mostly a live demo. I'm going to introduce with a couple of slides what's new in Civil 3D 2025. So I'm going to start with an overview of the new features in surfaces. You now have the possibility of apply level of detail for each surface individually. A new dialog to assign the coordinate system, some new maps for the geolocation feature, some improvements in Dynamo, and then I'm going to spend a bit longer in corridor workflows. I'll start with a new workflow that we have, a new dialog when you create a corridor in Civil 3D, where you can apply multiple baselines more easily. And then I'm going to expand on that using Naviate for Civil 3D. I'll show a couple of features that can complement that functionality. I'll talk a bit about Naviate in a minute when I get to that point, and then at the end I'll show the interaction with Navisworks. I'm going to essentially generate some solids from the corridors and export those to Navisworks to see that the property data can be accessed in Navisworks as well. So if I start with the live demo, I'm going to bring my Civil 3D 2025 to the screen. And I'm going to start with the surfaces. As I briefly mentioned, we have now the possibility of applying a level of detail for each individual surface. We have it in the ribbon. When you select the surface, you can pick a reduced level of detail. So it will make the file more responsive at the cost of visual fidelity. You can apply it in the ribbon. You'll have a similar option in Prospector. You can apply it from there, and in the right-click menu as well. After selecting the surface, you can apply the level of detail. You also have a setting. If I go to settings and I go to surface settings, you can apply a reduced level of detail as a default for new surfaces that are created. If this is set to yes, the next surface that I create is going to be created with a level of detail, a reduced level of detail applied. You also have a number of commands for level of detail in surfaces. So if I look at my command line, I have a couple of commands to apply level of detail to a particular surface, high or low, or to all the surfaces in the drawing. In terms of the coordinate system, we now have a new way of applying the coordinate system to the drawing, as well as the usual way where you go to drawing settings, pick it from the dropdown. We now have a new dialog. The command is geocs assign. So I can pick the coordinate system. If I do a search here, I can pick that one, assign it. And you can also pick the vertical datum. I can pick this one here, assign it to the drawing. And if I go to drawing settings, I can see the coordinate system has been applied. So it's a more user-friendly way if you want to apply the coordinate system. There is a system variable, enable CS support, where you can turn that on or off. If that's on, when you add a DEM file, a digital elevation model, to a surface, you will have the possibility to access that dialog to assign the coordinate system. Using that dialog, if it's off, it will be as it was with previous versions. For the geolocation, if I go to the geolocation tab, We have the usual maps and we have some additional ESRI high resolution maps over here. So you can apply those maps as well. So go through those. Okay, so you have those additional maps now. Let me switch to Dynamo. If I open Dynamo. Going to open that script. We now have this package manager dialog where we can access everything related to packages from the same place in Dynamo. So we can do a search for a package. I can apply filters. I can filter by dependencies. I can see if the package has dependencies or not and apply that filter. I can select a package from here, view the details of that package. I can publish a package if I want to upload my own package. Look at the list of packages that I have installed, the packages that I have published, and you can access the package settings, and you can access preferences from those package settings from this dialog as well. For multi-line text, if I add a watch node here, and I connect it, now multi-line text is more readable with watch nodes. So if I move this handle, I can resize it. And if the text doesn't fit, it will show the handlebars by default. A couple of new nodes, the gate and the remember node. I'm going to add a watch node here to see what's going on. So the gate node, if it's open, it will simply pass through the data unchanged. If it's closed, it will pass null. Okay, so if I leave it open and I change the coordinates of this point, then it's going to update as usual. If I close it, it will pass null. The remember node will remember the previous valid input if we are passing null to it. Okay, at the moment we're passing null, so if I change here this value, if I add a watch node here as well, it doesn't update because we're passing null, but instead of passing a null value, it's passing the last valid input. So it can be useful if the computation is not valid for a particular condition. You can still complete the iteration with the previous value that was valid. The moment I open it, it will now update to the new value. Okay, so we have those improvements in Dynamo. There are other improvements in performance. There have been a few improvements in performance that I'm not showing in this video. There's a blog and a video in our website where you can see those improvements. Essentially, mainly the improvements have been in generation of surfaces and corridors. The performance has improved. It's more more responsive, a bit quicker. Okay, let me have a look at the, if I can close Dynamo. Let's have a look at the corridor. So we're going to focus on corridors a little bit. First on Civil 3D 2025, and then I'll show Naviate and Navisworks as well. Okay, so if I go to the usual dialog to create a corridor, now it looks a bit different. It has a different design to allow you to select multiple baselines more quickly. It can be alignments and profiles, or it can be feature lines. So I can pick this button to graphically pick the baselines. Let's select everything there. I have a number of alignments and feature lines. I'm getting this warning indicating that one of the 6 feature lines doesn't have a name. So we have those 5 feature lines with a name, and this one doesn't have a name. When that happens, it will give you 2 options. You can apply a default name so that they're no longer unnamed, or you can only select feature lines that have a name with the second option. So I'm going to do that. If the feature line doesn't have a name, I'm going to disregard it. So I'm going to pick do not select unnamed feature lines. At this point, I can select the assembly from the drawing. I can pick it graphically, or I can press enter and skip that and go back to the dialog, and then I can pick the assembly individually from the dialog. Okay, I'm going to focus on feature lines for a moment. I'll remove the alignments, and then I'll come back to the alignments. When you assign or select feature lines, you can apply filters. So let me show you those. I'm going to remove those as well. And I'm going to show you some of the filters. You can filter by name. So you can use wildcards here. So if I say *1, for instance, as the filter, and I select those 5 feature lines, it's only selecting feature line 1 because it's the only one that finishes with a 1 and matches the filter. Those are feature lines 1 through 5, as we saw briefly before when we had everything selected. Okay, let's have a look at the other filters. I can remove that one. I can filter by style. So if I want the feature lines with the style pitch, I select them all again. Again, I'm skipping the assembly, but you can select the assembly at the same time. At that point, those 2 feature lines have that style. You can filter by layer. So I can pick that layer grading, select again, draw a window, and we have those 3 feature lines. In that layer, you can pick a site, filter by site. Let's say site 2. Select the feature lines. And those 3 feature lines are in site 2. And you can also, to show a last example, you can combine multiple filters. So you can say, I want site 2 and I want style ditch. I select, and it's only that feature line 4 that complies with that style and that site. So it will be making it easier to select feature lines based on name, style, layer, and site, or any combination of those. Okay, let's have a look at the alignments. I can select the alignments individually. If I pick an alignment individually, I can pick that button. I can select this alignment. You can then select the profile. You can pick the profile, and you can pick the assembly, either by name or graphically, as usual, using the green cube. You can also select multiple alignments at the same time. If I pick this one, pick from drawing, I can select like that. I'm going to skip the assembly and assign it later. And it will add all of those alignments. I'm going to remove those. And I can now apply the assembly that I want to use. And once I have alignments, profiles, and assemblies, we could potentially have feature lines and assemblies as well. The other half of the dialog is the usual style, encoded style, the target surface. Click OK. We get the baseline and region parameters as usual. We could modify the frequencies, the targets here. And we can then go ahead and create the corridor. Okay. So again, you may need to modify the targets, the regions a little bit, but it will automate the creation to select multiple baselines in one go when you generate the corridor. Okay, so from here, I'm going to continue on this topic of corridors. And I'm going to show a couple of tools of Naviate with corridors. So Naviate is a plugin, if you want, that can be installed on top of Civil 3D. And you get a ribbon for the different modules. So let me talk about those briefly, and then I'll show a couple of tools from the road module. So you have Naviate for other applications like Revit as well. In terms of Civil 3D, you have those 4 modules: pipe, road, landscape, and traffic. You can get a pipe, road, and landscape as part of a bundle. The infrastructure bundle will contain those 3. And we have traffic as well. The advantage of using Naviate is mainly 2 advantages. The first one is automation. So you can combine multiple commands and do your workflows a bit more consistently and more quickly. And it's also quite good to apply standards. You can apply templates for different objects. There are a few that come with Naviate, and you can create your own as well. So you can create your library of templates and then apply your templates to the objects, applying the styles to the objects, that kind of thing. So for pipe, you have parts lists as well that come with Naviate that conform to national standards. Landscape, a number of tools to modify the elevation of the surfaces, volume calculation methods, a number of templates. In road, a number of functions as well for workflows and standards and templates and settings for different objects like corridors. And in traffic, you have a library of road signs and road markers, and you can create your own as well to add to that library. Okay, so let me show you. I'll just show road, and I'll just show a couple of tools of road. There are quite a few tools here, so I'll just show you an example so that you get an idea. So if I go to Naviate, I have a Naviate road ribbon. And I'm going to show the corridor settings command. I have a corridor in this drawing where we have a frequency applied. I think it's every 20 meters on straights and 10 on curves at the moment. The frequency, we don't have a slope patterns applied. We have a codes style applied, different settings of the corridor. And what we're going to do is to apply the settings from a reference corridor. There are some reference corridors that come with Naviate, or you can use your own corridors. I'm going to use that second option. I have a reference corridor here. And I'm going to essentially make this corridor look like the reference corridor. So we have a codes style with a solid fill here. I have some surfaces that I didn't have in the other drawing. So if I look at the properties of this reference corridor, I have a top and a formation surface. I have some styles applied. I can also apply those same styles when I'm transferring the settings. I have some boundaries applied to those surfaces, some slope patterns applied. You can look at the frequencies, every meter in this one. You can see the slope patterns here. So essentially, I'm going to apply all of those settings to this corridor. If I go to corridor settings, I can then select the corridor and I get this dialog. I can pick the source drawing, the drawing that contains the reference corridor. This is the default one that comes with Naviate, where you have different corridors that you can apply. I'm going to apply that reference corridor. So I can browse to that location. Let me browse to the location. And I'm going to pick reference corridor. And then from the dropdown, there's only one corridor in that drawing called sample corridor. I'm going to import the frequency. So I can match the frequency from the original file. I can apply the same surfaces as well, the top and the formation surface. I can apply the styles as well of those surfaces so that they show in the same style. The slope patterns, the codes style. You can save those settings. If you save the settings, the next time you access the dialog, the same options will be selected essentially. You can also change the path to the source drawing so that it's always the same as well. Click OK. Give it a couple of seconds. And you can see the corridor now with the solid fill. You can see the slope patterns have been applied. The surfaces, if I look at the surfaces, we have the top, the formation surface. Notice that it also adjusts the name to the name of this corridor. So then the name was sample corridor top in the previous file. Now it's picking the name of this corridor. So if I have a look at those, it's applying the same surfaces, the styles. It will indicate in the description the reference drawing that we're using to pick those settings. The boundary has also been applied, the slope patterns, and the frequency as well. Okay, so pretty handy. You can have a reference corridor, and with the click of a button in that dialog, you can make all your corridors look the same. Let's have a look at a second tool to generate corridor solids. You can potentially do that in Civil 3D as well, but this one works a bit better, and more importantly, you can add additional data to the solids that will be quite handy to do searches using that data and to bring that data to Navisworks as well, as I'll show in a moment. Okay, so we have here essentially the same corridor. I'm going to pick solids from shape. Pick that command, select the corridor, you can pick it graphically. I select the corridor from the drawing. I can pick the start and the end station to generate those solids. I can pick the frequency, let's say 20 meters, so I want 20-meter solids. I can split it in solids with that length. I can add a prefix or a suffix to the layer based on the shape code, for instance, here. And this is the important bit. You can add a property set. You can add extended data to those solids. I'm going to use that MV corridor property set, which comes with Naviate, and I'll show what those properties are in a moment. On the right-hand side, I can select the codes that I want to add. So I can select all, unselect, select individually. You can apply filters. So you can apply wildcards here. So if I type B star, for instance, and I apply the filter, it will select everything that starts with a B. You can also save those filters. So if I want to select, for instance, those, I'm going to remove those that relate to the pattern of the road. You can then save that so that you can load that same filter in the future, or you can open. You will essentially save those as a text file that you can then load later on. We can create the solids in this particular drawing. We can write them to a separate file as well if we want to. We can also export to a CSV file, so I'm going to do that as well. Let's pick a location. Let's pick that. Save it there. If the file exists, you can append new data or overwrite the old file, depending on if you're going to add new solids or if you want to replace everything in the file. Click OK, and we give it a few seconds to generate the solids. It's kind of a long corridor. It will take a little bit, not too long. Okay, so it has finished generating the solids. It will pre-select the solids right after creating them in case you want to do something with those solids straight away. So I can go to Object Viewer. Have a look at those solids in 3D. Let's zoom in to those solids. You can see the solids being generated there. We can look at the extended data, the property set that has been added. If I pick a solid, let's say that one. If I go to extended data in properties, you can see a number of properties that have been added, like the code, layer, corridor name, baseline, region name, subassembly, the side, the length, the area, the volume, start and end chainage. So a number of dimensions and properties that have been added to those solids. There's a unique ID that identifies the solid uniquely that will combine some of those properties. The corridor, baseline, region, subassembly, the site, the code, the chainage. So it will identify the solid uniquely with that unique ID. Let me show you the CSV file as well that I created. If I open that, it will essentially show all of those properties in a table in Excel. So you have a corridor name, baseline, region name, the volume, so you can use that data in Excel. So you can use it in Excel, but more importantly, you can use it within Naviate as well. If I open the property palette from the Naviate ribbon, let me move that to the side a little bit so we can see everything. I can select the property set that I selected for those solids. And if I do a search, it will select all those solids that are using that property set. And I can filter down by properties now. So for instance, let's say that I want the start chainage from 300 to an end chainage of 400. You can see that it tells you the number of solids that have been selected, so 651 in total at the moment. If I search between 300 and 400, it will only select those. And we have 80 objects selected. I may want to select from those chainages. Maybe I want to only select a particular code. I want to select the code surface. So if I search, it will go from 80 to 20 objects. So it's now selecting only the surface construction layer. And you have this sum column, which is pretty handy to get the sum of particular properties. So if I take the volume, it will give me the total volume of the solids with the code surface and the chainage from 300 to 400. So you can perform searches like that. You can also pick a particular baseline. Perhaps you have those chainages in multiple baselines. You could select which baseline you want to select, and so on. So essentially, all the properties that were showing in the extended data can be searched here in this property data palette. Okay, so to conclude, I'm going to send those solids to Navisworks so we can see that we can still access those properties in Navisworks. So I'm going to clear the selection. I'm going to search to select everything. I'm going to paste that in a separate drawing. I could generate the solids in a separate drawing from the start as well, but I'm going to cut those since I already have them. And I'm going to paste them in this drawing. Okay, let's save. I'm going to call it solids. And I'm going to export that to Navisworks with the nwc out command. Okay, if I now open that in Navisworks, it's going to look a bit like this. So we have our solids. If I go to an isometric view, I can go to this side. And I can see the solids here. In the selection tree, it will separate the solids depending on the code. So it will create a layer in Navisworks for the different codes. So you can easily select based on the code. If I select, sorry, if I select the solid, I can go to the properties. And I have this NV corridor property set that I can access in Navisworks. So the same properties that we had before. I can access the start, the unchained, the volume, and so on. You can access all of those there. And because you have properties for those objects, you can do a search using those properties. If I go to find, I can pick the category. I can pick NV corridor, property. I can pick a code equals surface. And if I search for that, it will select everything with the code surface. I can create a search set from that, which means everything with that code will be part of that search set. And because it's a search, if you in the future add more solids with that same code, they will automatically be added to that search set. And you can then use those sets for easy selection, or for instance, if I go to the appearance profiler, I can pick, let's say, a red color for that property set. If I run that, it will paint that red. You could do it for all the codes and so on. So essentially, you get the properties in Navisworks and you can do whatever you want with those properties. So that's the end of the demo. If you want to download a free trial of Navisworks Civil 3D, you can use the QR code. We'll share the links as well.
But yeah, thanks very much for joining. And yeah, again, we're always here to help.
Okay, thank you.